The word Aldermaston generally brings to mind a nuclear research site, doesn't it? Well, I can promise you, we've come here on a much more gentle pursuit. I've come to visit one of the country's foremost studio potteries, and if you're passionate about your pots, you're going to love what's inside here. With little more than a course in evening classes under his belt, Alan Cager-Smith took over the local smithy and he turned it into a pottery. And this year it celebrates its 50th anniversary. Alan, congratulations. Hello.
Hello, Paul.
That's an awful lot of pots in 50 years. Take a seat and tell me all about it. When and where it all started. And where does your passion in ceramics lie?
Oh, it started by making figures out of clay when I was a student. Mm-hmm. And then I met somebody who showed me how to use a wheel. And once I'd started using the wheel, everything seemed to go very well. I loved it. And inevitably, like all students, I had to think, how am I going to earn my living? And I felt, well, I'd like to try anyway to earn it by doing something I love doing.
Yes.
So I had the idea of making pots. Then came the evening classes. And then Village Smithy was on the market for a very small price. Lovely building, empty for 3 years. Bit of a ruin, but it wanted something to be done.
I tell you what, as soon as you walk in here, it really does take you back in time, doesn't it?
It does, it does.
So you've been here 50 years,
yes,
throwing and making pots.
Right.
And you hand decorate them as well.
They're all hand painted, yes.
Which looks to me as if they're sort of inspired by the faience, a sort of continental look.
Well, they are really. The faience is a sort of continental word for tin glaze pottery. That's the sort of pottery we make where you're using colours on a white glaze.
Yeah.
I liked colour. I used to be a painter before I was a potter. And I like using colour. I like using a brush. And the pots are practically all of them brush decorated in a number of colours.
Yeah.
Some of them are colours on tin glaze, some of them are lustre colours.
Well, I noticed out the back there, in this small works, that you're digging your own clay. So shall we take a look around this very small factory?
We'll take a look, Paul, yes.
Well, this is where it all starts. Look at this. And you actually hand dig this out?
Yes, we do.
Where does this clay come from?
This comes from North Devon. There's about 5 square miles of it in North Devon.
Are you one of these boffs that goes around the countryside with your trowel testing different areas for clay?
Wherever I see clay, I like to take a little bit and test it.
Why do you do that?
Well, you get to know something about the land, and also you know something more about your own craft.
OK, let's see the next process. Yes. So this is where the clay is being mixed?
That's right. What we saw before was crude clay from the ground. Yeah. That's no good as it is. It's got roots, stones, all sorts of things in it. So it has to be sieved so that all the bits, stones, pieces of lime and so on, get screened out of it. Yeah.
And who's this?
That's what Andrew's doing now.
Andrew's part of the team.
Andrew is very much part of the team.
What's that apparatus over there for, with all that sort of sacking and webbing?
That is the filter press. Those sacking bits allow the water to come through under pressure, but they are fine enough that they hold the clay back, so that you end up with a sort of enormous waffle like this, sort of about 1.5 inches thick, a waffle of pure clay.
OK, what's the next bit?
The next step is to put that through the pug mill, which makes it into sausages. Yeah. Cut up the sausages and
start to throw.
Start to throw. come up here, Paul.
Yeah.
And you'll see in the showroom some of the finished pieces.
Gosh, what a lot of pieces. Have you created all these vessels?
Well, most of these are mine, yes. These are actually working samples.
And how long do they date back to?
Oh, about 45 years.
So this really is your archive history.
It is really.
these
The
shells.
history of the pottery is recorded in all this. Well, a lot of it, anyway.
Everyone tells a story.
Yes, they do,
I
they
expect
do.
you've got a few stories. Let's
I
pick on a
have,
couple.
yes.
Tell me about this one.
Well, that one, for instance, this one I made originally for Percy Eatwell, who's an Aldermaston man who I used to work with as a boy.
Yeah.
And he was in the pub. He said, "Oh, couldn't you make me a tankard like that, but in pottery and with colours on it?"
That's a tin glaze, isn't it?
Tin glaze tankard.
Tell us about tin glaze.
That is dipped in a glaze, which is a sort of solution like cream.
Yeah.
And it comes out covered with a powdery white surface. When that's dry, you paint on it with the brush. Without the tin, it would be a clear glaze and it would all look brown.
Yeah.
So the tin glaze enables you to use colour.
Right, it gives it a
Really.
nice white background for the colour to stand out.
Yes, yes.
There's a couple of large bowls. There's some fruit bowls. Tell me about
Well,
one of
this
those.
is one. This is a sort of bowl. We've made a lot of these over the years. I love this sort of bowl because it's it's a family bowl. It's a convivial bowl. It's for parties. It's for suppers. It's a sort of bowl brings people together.
It's lovely. Do you know what I like about your work is that you use lovely muted hues. You don't use vibrant colours.
Now, I think it's important. They shouldn't be too strong, otherwise they take too much attention to themselves, like somebody shouting all the time.
Yeah.
They've got to fit in with the life that they belong to.
Yeah. Something else you specialise in is lusterware. Can we look at a really fine example of lusterware? Pick me out a piece, one of your choice pieces.
It's a different technique.
So talk me
And
through that.
it's given, well, you paint a luster pigment. We prepare the pigments from silver and copper and clay, refire them to a little bit beyond red heat, and then we make a very strong reducing atmosphere. We cut out the oxygen in the kiln, which involves a bit of smoke.
And that reacts.
And after about an hour, yes, the copper and silver are broken down to pure metal, which lodge in the glaze.
That is definitely an antique of the future. Alan, thank you very much for showing me around.
It's a pleasure, Paul, it's a pleasure.
And talking of antiques, it's time we joined our very own experts back at the Valuation Day, and let's see what other treasures we can find to take off to auction.